Call this meeting to order. We're here to discuss the estimates. Premier Higgs, the floor is yours for 5 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Before we start, I'd just like to have, before you raise a point of order, I'm not here for, controversial debate. I would just like the opportunity
point of order,
to make a comment about thinking bigger in Canada and how we can meet the climate change objectives and we can be a major player here in New Brunswick.
We will provide time for that.
Sorry, what's your point of order? Sorry, Premier Higgs, what's your point of order?
Mr. Chair, I'm looking forward to the testimony of both premiers today and getting an explanation from both of them why they're both raising taxes and the cost of heating and energy.
What's your point of order?
12%. So I'm really interested to hear why they're raising the cost of living for their residents.
What's your point of order, Mr. Kuzmirchuk?
My concern, Mr. Chair, is that we are right now meeting in contravention of Standing Order 108 and also in contravention of a motion that this committee has passed yesterday that prohibits you, Chair, from calling meetings and witnesses unilaterally without consultation and consent from committee. And I would ask the clerk to provide some comment and direction on it, because this is now the third meeting this week that we've had scheduled without any consultation of committee, without any instruction from committee. This is the third meeting that is being held in a row during a constituency week, which is a sacred week that is focused on constituents. I know our Conservative colleagues couldn't give two hoots about our constituents, but we do.
Mr. Kuzmirchuk, can you just stick to the point of order, please, and not an editorial?
Absolutely, and I'm just about to wrap up here. And so whenever
on a point of order, Mr. Chairperson, there's no interpretation because apparently there are multiple microphones open at the same time, causing interference.
Is the interpretation on?
Sorry, interpretation is on. Mr. Savard Tremblay is just pointing out other people talking, but if you could get to your point of order, please.
And I'm just about to conclude right here shortly, because I do want to get to the premiers as well. But meetings during constituency weeks are
That's not a point of order, Mr. Kuzmirchuk. Either get to the point of order, or we will move back to Premier Higgs.
So my point, Mr. Chair, is I am asking the clerk to comment on whether this meeting is in contravention of both Standing Order 108 and also in contravention of the motion that this committee passed yesterday prohibiting the chair from calling meetings without consultation and consent of this committee. And what is particularly egregious, I have to say, is that, Mr. Chair, you called these so-called emergency meetings this week, 3 of them, and not one of the permanent Conservative members of this committee even bothered to show up.
Okay. I will address your point of orders, Mr. Kuzmirchuk.
No one from the opposition leaders' front bench bothered to show up to ask questions. That is egregious. We're here from the Liberal side, the NDP side, the Bloc side. We're here to do
Mr. Kuzmirchuk, you've made your point of order. I will rule on your point of order.
Conservative members of this committee. Where are the permanent members, Conservative members of this committee?
Point of order, Chair.
And why are they not here to do their work?
I will address your point of order. But Mr. Singh, on a point of order, then I'll address Mr. Kuzmirchuk's.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
Briefly, please.
I appreciate that you made a ruling on this yesterday, I believe, as Mr. Kuzmirchuk once again is trying to silence another premier and not let them testify about the harmful impacts of a 23% increase on the carbon tax that's going to impact families worse.
You're the finance critic. You weren't even here yesterday.
Sorry, Mr. Kuzmirchuk. Please to respect the interpreters and for Mr. Savard Tremblay, just one person at a time. It is clear, committee, and I'm going to read, committee meetings are convened by the chair, and it can be after a decision made by the committee or on the chair's own authority. And that's right from page 29 or 1095 of the Green Book. With respect to the motion yesterday, as I stated yesterday, my ruling was, I believe it was...
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Kuzmirchuk, let me finish, please.
I
will stop.
I asked the question of the clerk,
you do not, Mr. Kuzmirchuk, you've been around for a long time. You know very well the rules that you do not address questions to the clerk. You know that very well, and it appears you're just being disruptive at this time. But I appreciate what you're saying, but the rules clearly allow the chair to call meetings on his own authority, which I did. With respect to the motion yesterday, as I ruled yesterday, my belief is that is for meetings going forward. You cannot simply, I don't believe it could simply reach back in time and change what has already been booked. So that is what my ruling is. If you'd like to hear the clerk's response about my chair's ability to call a meeting, I'm happy to refer to him, and he can repeat from page 1095 himself.
Point of order, Chair.
We're actually in a discussion. I'll get to you in a moment. On interpretation. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you stated on page 1095 of Procedure and Practice, it states under the section convening a meeting by the chair. Committee meetings are convened by the chair acting either on a decision made by the committee or on the chair's own authority. Therefore, my advice to the chair would be that there's two mechanisms to plan a meeting. Either the committee can agree to a schedule and a specific time and plan for a meeting, or the chair has the discretion to plan meetings on his authority.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
I realized someone else had called a point of order, but I saw Mr. Souza's hand was up. Is it on a point of order, Mr. Souza? Or otherwise
It's on
we'll
this
go
point
to...
of order.
Okay, go ahead,
Yes,
sir.
it's on a point of order. I just want clarity again from the clerk. So we have an opportunity here that the chair has the right to call these meetings, I understand, but he also has the right and the need to abide by the members' consent.
Okay, we've ruled on that already, Mr. Souza, so that's not a point of order. Thank you.
No.
There was someone else with a point of order. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I got a point of order.
Go ahead, Mr. Long.
Clarity on the rules.
Okay,
Mr.
I've
Chair.
advised, and the clerk has advised already, Mr. Souza. We'll
we're
be happy
asking
to
the clerk-
email it out to you as well if you are having concerns about following along with the conversation.
You need consent.
Go
to
ahead,
adjourn,
Mr. Long.
I'm asking you a question, Mr. Chair, and you're trying to now shut me down, and that's inappropriate. And again, it's the way you flagrantly operate independently without consulting with the members. So my question, as a point of order, is to the clerk.
Okay, Mr. Souza,
Chair,
you've been around for a
Yes.
long time as well, and it pains me to have to repeat this because it almost feels just like you're doing this on purpose, and I'm sure that is not your intent, Mr. Souza. You know you cannot ask directions or questions of the clerk. They should be directed to the chair. So Mr.
Through you, Chair, to the
Kuzmierczak has
clerk.
already asked that about page 29, and I have ruled on it. And if you need for the clerk to repeat that to you, I will. But it appears you're doing this on purpose for either disruption of the committee or for some bizarre film clip. I'm not sure, but I'll have him repeat it for you if you wish.
Mr. Chair, that's not the intent here. My intent is to try to provide decorum in this committee to ensure that we operate collectively and cooperatively. Right now, unilateral decisions are being made by you, even yesterday's adjournment of the debate when we had a motion before the House. I'm asking the clerk through you to tell us if consent was required to do so.
I adjourned on a
Point of order.
okay, you can't point of order during a point of order or a point of order, but I
Raising a point of
adjourned
order.
on
Getting the
a
cue.
disorder. I'll read the ruling. Disorder or misconduct in the committee may arise as a result of failure to abide by the rules, practices, respect the authority of the chair. Disorder and misconduct also include use of unparliamentary language, which we had yesterday, fail to yield the floor, which we had yesterday, persistent interruption. So that is directly from the Green Book. I can have the clerk reaffirm what's in the Green Book for you if you wish, but that was why.
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Chair. Under the section Committee Questions and Procedure Privilege, as stated by the Chair, committee may arise as a result of the failure to abide by rules, respect the authority of the Chair. Disorder and conduct may include the use of unparliamentary language. I would cite also page 1099 in Chapter 20, stating that committee chair may adjourn the meeting if the Chair decides that a case of disorder or misconduct is so serious as to prevent the committee from continuing its work.
Thanks. I think it was Mr. Long, and then I have Mr. Nakvi. No, sorry,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Long.
Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning. And I'm puzzled, Chair. This obviously is. I'm happy to be here.
What's your point of order, Mr. Long?
Well, Chair, I'm confused. Why is the Premier of New Brunswick here with respect to Maine estimates? Can you explain that? And also, Chair, I'm wondering if you're able to table any conversations or emails that led to the Premier being invited here for Maine estimates. Like, I've got questions on Maine estimates that I could certainly ask the Premier of New Brunswick. But,
Mr. Long, what's your point of order, please?
I'm confused as to why the Premier of New Brunswick is invited here when we're supposed to be on Maine estimates. Can you explain that to me, Chair? Thank you.
Certainly. As was explained yesterday, we are on the Maine estimates. There is over $11 billion in spending related to the carbon tax, which is about a 66% increase from just 2 years ago, and I think about a 35% increase from last year. So it is discussion on items within the Maine estimates. Seven of the premiers. Mr. Long, I respected your time. Chair. I would ask you not to interrupt me. Allow me to continue, please. 7 of the 10 premiers wrote to the Liberal Finance Chair asking for a meeting to discuss this. He refused. So I thought it would be good for the Canadians who are represented by these 7 of the 10 premiers to be able to speak on the issue, and that is why. And they are invited to speak on the estimates. I can't help it if you're not clear on that, Mr. Long, but I have explained why.
You're telling me, Chair.
I'm going to Mr. Nackby. Go ahead.
Chair, I have the floor right now. So, Chair, you're telling me that the Premier of New Brunswick is able to answer questions from us on the Maine estimates? Is that not why we're here, Chair?
Ms. Long, the premiers representing 70% of Canadians have been invited to speak. It's not for you to decide their relevance as a witness, just like you could not, question the relevance of perhaps a parliamentary budget officer being here yesterday. I have advised you why. We will now go to Mr. Nackby. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm not trying to be disruptive. I'm just trying to understand the rules by which this committee and other committees, because there is an element of precedent setting that takes place when a particular committee acts in a particular way. And so I'm trying to understand under what rules are acting here today. I'm asking the question of you. If the clerk can answer that question, I'll sincerely appreciate it. I would also sincerely appreciate, Chair, that you don't point an answer to the clerk to read. I think that's not fair. The clerk is an expert in parliamentary procedure, and he should be able to answer the questions without you guiding him exactly what answer he should be reading. Having said that, I'm looking at the motion that this committee passed just yesterday, and I'll just quickly read this,
Mr. Chair,
which says...
Please, Mr. Nackby, just get to your point of order.
I'm getting to my point. I am getting to the point of order.
Liberals are trying to block Mr. Premier Higgs from testifying. Please just get to the point of order.
So with all due respect, that is not my intention.
Please get to the point of order.
Point of order. Point of order.
We already have someone at the floor, Mr. Kuzmierczak, and I've mentioned already in respect to Mr. Savard Tremblay and to the interpreters, ask people not talk over the floor. Mr. Nackby.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. And I am speaking to my point of order because the motion that was adopted by this committee yesterday speaks to that exact point, which says that it expressed its disappointment in the chair for his disregard for the members and his duties as chair, and it stated that that when the committee undertakes to invite witnesses, that a witness list submission deadline be set by the chair with the explicit consent of the committee, B, witnesses be invited proportionally to each recognized party standing in the House, and C, no such witness be invited without instruction of the committee. And I'm wondering, Chair, first to you and then to the clerk, whether this motion is being respected. I have not seen any documentation that suggests to me that all these 3 things that were just adopted by this committee yesterday are being undertaken as it relates to witnesses today and moving forward. And I think I know you well, sir. You're a respectful member of Parliament, that you will not act in contravention of a motion of your own committee. So I just wanted some clarity as to what steps were followed to to meet these conditions, and would like to also hear from the clerk as well without you pointing an answer to him. Thank you.
I was not pointing or directing, but I appreciate that incorrect perspective. The motion yesterday, I made very clear, I don't believe is retroactive. So the meeting had already been called, the notice had already been put up, witnesses already done. Nowhere in the notice did it say retroactive. And so that was that. The meeting was booked, the witness has been called, period. I'm not sure if the clerk wished, no, you wanted the clerk to weigh in on that. I'm not sure if he has an opinion, but please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you stated, I would leave it to the chair and the committee to interpret the motion and how it should be used moving forward. At this point, I would echo what the chair stated, that the notice was indeed published before this motion was adopted. That being said, based on the terms of the motion, I would leave it to the chair and the committee to decide how to interpret the mechanism and the way to move forward with the motion as it stands. At this point, I would not deem to interpret whether or not today's meeting applies to this motion. I leave it to the chair and the committee to decide how to move forward on that point.
Mr. Kusmirchuk, then Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Tremblay.
I was just, I was hoping to get the second part of my question answered, which the clerk provided his testimony, which I do appreciate. And again,
Debate.
we're all ready to...
Mr. Kusmirchuk, can we get to the point of order, please?
Yeah, I was just saying thank you for finally
Mr.
responding
Kusmirchuk, please get to your point of order.
Questions that I have. That's it. Thank you. Let's continue on with the
Mr.
questioning
Lawrence,
of the
and then
premier.
Mr. Savard-Tremblay, please.
Yeah, it's clear what the Liberals are doing. They've raised a number of non-point of orders. It's time to hear from Premier Higgs. As he said, he's not interested in any type of partisan dispute or argument. Neither am I. I'm interested in hearing the representative of New Brunswick, and others may laugh at that, but I want to hear what
Thank
he
you,
has to
Mr.
say.
Lawrence. Mr. Savard-Tremblay. Mr. Savard-Tremblay, you have your hand up?
Yes. Well, listen, I won't take part in this circus. I have a new jacket on and I don't want to get it dirty today. Now, I just want confirmation from your mouth, Mr. Chairperson, that there will be no meeting next week, and I'd like to know who the witnesses will be when we return.
There will be no meeting next week. April 8th and April 10th are our next meetings, and I believe it's, correct me on the order, it's Canada Post is one meeting, second meeting is the red tape reduction study. Or maybe red tape reduction on the 8th and then Canada Post on the 10th, but I believe Canada Post is first. Mr. Higgs, Premier Higgs,
Point of order, sir.
we go
Sir,
back
one
to
more
you,
point
sir.
of order. I just.
Sorry, Premier.
Sorry, Premier. I'm just reflecting on the words that the clerk was saying in response to my point of order, and I heard him say that it is up to the committee members to determine the interpretation of the motion passed. I think he said both chair and committee members, because you don't act, with all due respect, no, you, sir, the chair does not act in
point of
isolation.
order, please, sir.
The point of order is that there was a clear intention on the part of the committee members when they passed the motion yesterday that it would apply to all witnesses, retrospective as well.
We appreciate that. I
so
stated very clearly that there's nothing that the meeting said was retroactive, or the motion said retroactive. If it did, it would be killing next April, or the NDP study next week, and the Liberal study on the red tape. Premier Higgs, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I guess, and I said I wasn't. I don't want to make this a political discussion. I want to make it about, we all don't like the carbon tax. I think we can all agree with party on we don't like the carbon tax, but we all have the same focus of how do we reduce emissions, how do we make a major impact on climate change, and for the better, and that's the goal that we are aligned on. So the point I'm reacting here to is mostly in relation to the Premier's. The Prime Minister's comments here just recently about give us a solution. we're open to solutions. And so what we're seeing as an opportunity here in New Brunswick is exactly what's happening in the West in relation to the development of LNG and the shipment of LNG across worldwide and the shutdown of coal plants. Now, we have the Prime Minister stated there's no business case in New Brunswick. That's absolutely not true. The situation is we have a business case. We don't have a gas supply currently, and that is the issue, the gas supply. Now, is it economical to bring it from the West or bring it from the U.S.? No, it hasn't proven to be based on the cost of transportation. But it is economical to develop our very own resource here in New Brunswick. It's economical to the point that we have 77 trillion standard cubic feet here in our province. And with a consolidated effort from the federal government and the First Nations, we can deal with not only having an impact around the world by shutting down coal plants that are being built at record numbers in China, 80 to 100 a year, coal plants that exist in Europe at 174 in that range, coal plants that even in Atlantic Canada that are running, 4 of them that could be shut down, and 50% reduction when you do that. So my plea here is across party lines to say, let's think bigger. Let's look at Canada as a solution to world environmental impact and changes in
Point of order,
reduction,
Chair.
as opposed to
Point of
us
order.
being exactly focused on our internal affordability and the costs every day of living
I
in our
apologize,
province.
Premier Higgs. I just have a point of order. Mr. Long, please make it
thank you.
brief.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just, again, Chair, I'm confused on relevance.
This is an opening statement, Mr. Long. Please show respect for the
Chair,
Premier. You may have a disagreements with us, but please show respect for the Premier of your province.
Chair, I
It's an
certainly do
opening
respect the
statement. Let
Premier
him
of the
finish
province.
this.
But again, I'm just wondering the relevance, and I'm also wondering, Chair, if you can explain again which of the votable items referred to in the committee contains the Canada carbon rebate. I'm confused. You able to let us know that, Chair?
Explained that yesterday, Mr. Long. Mr. Premier Higgs, go ahead. That's not a point of order. Mr. Higgs, go ahead,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Chair. I want to continue in relation to the affordability point. We are one of the few nations that have the opportunity to have it all. We have the resources, which we've always thrived on. We have the ability to have major climate change impact beyond our borders, beyond the 1.5% of emissions that currently we're focused on internally. And we would do what other countries are doing to take advantage of offsetting coal plants, but offsetting demands in Europe for oil and gas from Russia. We have the ability in Canada to just think bigger and make an impact around the world. So while we can develop these resources, we can use those resources to develop new technology, to build better, cleaner environmental industries, to actually reduce the cost of impact of everyday costs of people living and working in the province, which means ultimately reducing the carbon tax. But it's not an isolated solution. It's a solution that has a broader impact around the world, and it can be proven. It can be proven very clearly that it has a huge impact on reduction of emissions worldwide. We may want to think we're going to solve the problems in our own little bubble, but we are not. So I only ask the Prime Minister and all of you to let's have the opportunity. Let science look at what potential we can really have in reducing emissions and how we can play a major scene on the world scene. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier Higgs. We'll start with